Right, another episode of Bad Book Club. What are we getting our hands on today then? No. Trisha Paytas. Oh, here you go. Here's what we're looking at today. Get it out of my sight. Oh my god. I need to go wash my hands. I'm beginning to think that I'm a bit of a masochist because there's a special place in my heart for poetry that makes me feel physically ill. Given that today's book is a collection of poems written by a YouTuber, Trisha Paytas, I found myself constantly making comparisons to Gabbie Hanna's poetry book, which I made a video about a couple of weeks ago. Adultolescence, as you can see here. I've not exactly treated it very well. This one was clearly written for 13-year-olds but has adult in the title. This one, however, is much more of a book for adults and people who reside in asylums. My approach to this book, however, is going to be slightly different from my approach to Gabbie's. The poems in this book are certainly more lazy than Trisha's, but that lack of effort made them entertaining and generally more bearable. Analysing a poem that read, I just dunno, you know, it gave me a new lease of life. But there is just so much going on in here. Let me show you. There is so much poetry in this damn book. The font of the titles is also synonymous with the rest of the text. It all just looks like one big splurge. It's almost like you've snuck into Trisha's house and found her dream journal, and it really does say a lot about her personality. It's vast, okay? There are many aspects to Trisha Paytas. There are so many, in fact, that I can name 3. Food, social media, and love. Well, sex, okay, not really love. There's a lot of sex in this book. Sometimes it feels like you can even smell it, you know? Oh, I haven't had haddock in a while. But we are going to go over food and social media before we go on to the more steamy aspects of this book. Food. The main poem about food is titled An Ode to Food. Got Beethoven quaking in his fucking boots. You know I love you, baby. I love you so much. But if I have to choose, I will choose food. Honest and straight to the point, I can respect that. She isn't consistent with the idea that she always chooses food over humans. She seems to put them on the same level from what I can tell. It satisfies my tongue and belly's up. You satisfy with your tongue and bellies touch. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to address the logistics of this. So he's satisfying her with his tongue, but their bellies are touching? What's he gotta do? Like, you gotta contort yourself like this? Hey, you like my tongue? Ah, I call this one the belly brusher. Another poem where she references food is Waking Up. Waking up to eggs? Okay. Waking up to sex? Amazing. The best morning sex actually involves both eggs and penetration, not eggs being fertilized, for the record. Here's another one, Feast on Me. We feast on this food and I'm so happy. You make me giggle, you make me full. We gain weight and that's okay, because I'll feast with you forever to feel this happy ever day. I feel like she was close to having a good bit of poetry there, but then ever day. You make me happy every day. There are a lot of spelling errors in this book. In the poem A Trick, she writes, who wastes minutes of one's life if they'n don't care? It really upsets me that they'n doesn't care about me. And for the record, in the comments of the Gabbie Hanna video, I noticed a lot of people point out her spelling errors. Those spelling errors weren't hers, I'm afraid. They were mine while I was typing the poems up. So leave Gabbie Hanna alone, okay? She did spell her shit poetry well. Again, I'm struggling to find much in this poetry book that isn't about love. I found a poem called Nudes, and she writes, more nudes, please. This shall be my medicine. Guess medicine is a food of sorts. Penicillin, yummy. But most of the times, food is just used as a metaphor for love. For example, in Eat Me, she goes through some of her favorite restaurants. Steakhouse nights, I love so much. And Sushi House, your favorite, I know. Trisha Paytas eats sushi? What, did she wrap a big tasty in rice or something? The metaphors are incredibly loose. She then writes, it's warm and it's wet. Wet has its own line. It needs its own line, really. And it's just for you. A warm and wet food doesn't really sound appeasing to me. I wouldn't even describe soup as warm and wet. It just sounds, ugh. She thinks she's being subtle, essentially, but the sexual undertones are incredibly explicit in these poems. My favorite attempt at subtlety is in the poem Guess What It Is. It's a poem which talks about how things taste and how indulgent they are. She tries to make people think that she's talking about a nice meal when she's actually depicting herself deep-throating a donkey cock. Not belonging to an actual donkey, by the way. My favorite line of the poem is when she's describing how she feels after eating the food. I'm a puddle, baby. What kind of meal makes you moist? And if you do know, please serve it up to me right this second. Alright, that's enough food for now. Social media. So she seems to connect social media to mental health quite a lot in this poetry book. And love, of course. It seems like she doesn't really understand that she's an individual person. Most of these poems always revolve around someone else being in the picture. For example, in Ditched, I'm sorry you saw me as I was, a mess who couldn't be saved. I realise now that there's actually nothing to do about social media in that poem. I just saw the word mess and the first thing that came to my mind was Trisha Paytas' channel. But I take the poems about love and lust because when she's not talking about either of those things, it's just a bit worrying. For example, in apologizing to myself, you went down this path of fortune and fame. You went down this path to run away from pain. And then she goes on about how that path of social media has messed her up. May as well make some money off it though, lads, am I right? There's even poems where she second guesses her career choices. Delete, delete, delete. What are you, Trisha, a fucking Cyberman? Please still care, please still watch, please still listen. That would be implying that I was doing any of those things in the first place, Trisha. And again, she uses social media as a way to talk about love, like in the poem Why I Do What I Do. Come get this post you see online. Come get me for real. Who's she addressing with that? Me, Trisha? I mean, I can get a flight. I mean, okay. I guess it finally sheds some light on why she does what she does. I mean, if I'm not getting dick at the end of every video, then what's the point? Right. Love. Definitely not sex. Please don't demonetize me, YouTube. I was thinking I should probably come up with a different word for it in this video. My first thought was something like the hoo-ha. But Trisha offers a pretty nice alternative in this book. A pump and dump. But at least he seems like he cared. A pump and dump. Has anyone ever cared about a pump and dump? Are you a flat tire or something? Most of these poems are really long, okay? But there are some that are really lazy at the same time. They're usually found in the poems titled My Texts to You. The second one is my favorite. You said, can you just say hi? Please for just a little bit. Can we just talk? I thought I was seeing you today. I need you. Some nice little smiley faces there. I'm wondering if she chose to leave out the messages from her partner or if he just didn't send any at all. Imagine someone actually ghosting Trisha Paytas. What the hell? Do you know what you're missing out on here? Come on, man. It's almost as if she's clinically insane. Now we're getting to the more gruesome parts of this book. Some of these things I never thought I'd say in my life, let alone my channel. But anything for entertainment, right? He's pumped me with his drugs that only he holds inside his body, and I want to stay high. Body drugs. Lovely. I was wondering to myself there, what drug would I be? And it's actually quite obvious if you think about it. Nitrous oxide. I make you feel a bit dizzy, I only last 30 seconds, and you can leave me in the street when you're done. I'm also around this big. To be honest, there are more references to drugs than food in this book. I loved drugs, I craved them, now I only crave him. He's the sugary cereal I so strongly desired. No, Trisha, you didn't do sugary cereal. That's a class A, Trisha. How are you still alive? I've come to my conclusion though that I don't think Trisha really likes being pumped and dumped. In the poem Conversations, for example, I'm satisfied with talking, this is all I need. Conversations penetrating me harder than anything I've ever felt. Ah, yeah. Sexy, sexy small talk. No, oh my god, don't do it. How are you? Ugh. And if she does like the hoo-ha, then she most certainly doesn't like men. There's a part of the poem He Called, which I just love. Is he a monster, or was he just born with a penis? Those two things are synonymous. Some of us are even monsters who have penises which are monsters. Couldn't be me, to be fair. It's hard to read a poetry book that talks about these themes for over 18-year-olds when it feels like it was written by someone who's 12. For example, in 1 Week of Heaven, I go to bed happy. Happy in my heart. Happy in my underwear. Look at my panties, they've got a nice little smile on them. It's just so gross. Happy in my underwear. Now, because we're getting towards the end of the video, I want to be able to show you one of the more risque poems. So Susan, if you happen to be watching this video, thank you so much for the watch time, but also piss off. My favourite risque poem is titled Daddy. Of course it's titled Daddy. Here's just a little segment. A daddy is doing amazing daily dicking. Yes. Yeah, I think that gives you a good idea of this poetry book. The last poem in this book gives you the reason why Trisha even wrote it in the first place. It's a poem titled Romantic Comedy. It's probably my favourite of the work because it made me realise that this book really means something to Trisha. That makes one of us. The reason she wrote it is basically because she misses her ex. What fascinating reasoning. So this whole book is essentially Trisha trying to remind her ex-boyfriend about how good things have been in some vague attempt to make him come back. I don't know if he will come back. I imagine he feels like he's just escaped Alcatraz. But let me just read you out a segment of this poem. Never give up on me, ex-boyfriend. There's no layers to these poems. It is very obvious. You're my one and only friend. You're my lover and best friend. I hope you get the message these poems in this book will send. I'm gonna be real with you, Trisha. Ain't nobody making it to the end of this book to see this message. Except for me. I've read the whole thing. Send help, please. But because you've managed to get to the end of this video, here's a little treat. I love how bad Trisha is at rhyming. In the very first poem, A Shattered Heart, she writes, why can't guys follow through? Why can't guys let me through? Those two words are the same, Trisha. You don't have to spell them differently. Now, I personally believe that all poems should rhyme, but that's just subjective. But if you are going to attempt to rhyme, at least do it well. When Trisha does attempt to rhyme, it's sometimes with the same word, although there she did try to spell it differently. Didn't really work. And then sometimes when she does get it right and uses different words, she just sort of stops rhyming. And then in other cases, she uses words that don't rhyme, but look like they should. So I've produced a little beat, okay? It sounds a little bit royalty-free, but allow me. I've written down a few of her poems for the lyrics. I have had to change a few pronunciations of the words to make them actually rhyme. But let's see what Trisha's poetry would sound like in a song. Chinese food tonight, my favorite thing to do. Our dates are so magical, you know what you do. We eat the food so bad but so good, it makes us fat, but we've got each other. What? I'm not crazy, desperate. Want someone love me? Probably not if I'm being honest. I throw my men to the wall like spaghetti, hoping something sticks, I'm left sticky. The waves are crashing, I'm lying paralyzed from love macking. 3 times feeling his love, I can't even move. Paraplegic, baby. You grab me and I'm obsessed. You put 2 fingers and I'm obsessed. The buttered pasta, still obsessed. The eggs in B, there are more words than obsessed. And I want you back in my life, please stay. And we can make it right, please stay. And I will make it right. Rhyming is hard, yeah, you know it's right. The waves are crashing, I'm lying paralyzed from love macking. 3 times feeling his love, it feels like pizza. I can't even move. Paraplegic, baby. The waves are crashing, I'm lying paralyzed from love macking. 3 times feeling his love, it feels like pizza. I can't even move. Paraplegic, baby. Yeah. That's that song done. This song isn't going to be on Spotify, unfortunately, because none of you really want that shit, I know. Go and watch this video if you haven't seen it already, and yeah, that's about it. Bye.